and welcome to What I Eat in a Week. I've always enjoyed watching these videos and I hope you enjoy mine. So I'm gonna start off with breakfast. I don't eat breakfast every day. I think usually on the weekends that's when I find the time to make a really nice breakfast, but I'm just doing something simple this day, and that was with some oats. I usually do 1 cup of oats to 1.5 cups of milk. I add a little bit of brown sugar in there and I pop it into the microwave. Then I love to put fruits on top of my oats. That's honestly the easiest way to eat oats for me. Whatever fruits that I have, this day I use strawberries and bananas. I also added maple syrup to this, but I prefer adding honey on top. Added a few pumpkin seeds, and that was my breakfast. Hi guys, just got home and tonight I feel like making some Alfredo pasta. I usually make it like reduced dairy, but today I'm making it entirely dairy free, so basically vegan. So wish me luck. I'm making a cashew sauce from scratch. Let's see how this goes. So first I started off pan-searing my shrimp and my broccoli. I wanted to really get that nice and cooked, and then I transferred it out of the pan. I left a little bit of oil in the pan so I could start to create the base of my sauce, and I also added more oil. I added some garlic as well. Then I added a little bit of flour to the oil and really start the base for the Alfredo sauce. Then you want to go ahead and whisk that in. You're basically going to be adding your liquids. I started with the thinner liquids based on the recipe, so I'm just putting in my vegetable broth here, and then I'm whisking up the sauce. I believe I had the frying pan on a medium heat. Then I went in with my cashew cream that I had made. Something I would have done differently with the cashew cream, I would have blended it up for just a little bit longer with maybe just a touch more water. The sauce comes out better because I tried this recipe again sometime afterwards, and the sauce comes out much better when the cream is thinner and almost more liquid-like. I think my cashew cream, this time I made it, was a little bit too thick. But anyway, then I'm gonna go in with my coconut milk. I used the one from the can. This one really gives it that nice full cream. And then just like look at that sauce. It started to look really beautiful here. Will you be my leading lady? I wanna coach and get to know maybe. In the meantime, it's some me time. I don't know if you Don't ask me why I went in here and poured more oil. I think if you're trying to make the sauce stretch, it's better to add water than to add oil, because I realized the oil started to break up that really beautiful sauce that I had going a while ago. It's still the flavor was still on point, but just in terms of the presentation and the consistency of it all, don't add oil. When you get to that nice consistency of the sauce, like what we had a while ago, just leave it there and kind of maintain it. So at this point I added my shrimp and my broccoli, and as you can see, all the extra oil that I had poured out from the frying pan, yeah. However, I added in my pasta and I mixed up everything, and despite the sauce losing the texture that we had earlier, this recipe was so good. You could not tell me there was no cheese in here. You could not tell me that this wasn't like full cream dairy milk. This is probably the best Alfredo recipe that I have tried, in all honesty. That was literally full on dairy free, full on almost vegan, except I added shrimp. but definitely I would say to try it. I will link the recipe below. Enjoy. Bon appetit. This was dinner. Now, for this dinner, this was a smoked chicken that I got from work for Christmas, and it was in my freezer for a few weeks, and I was like, no, it's time to make this. So I decided, after having this chicken defrost for hours, I was going to season it up. So I started with a little bit of olive oil, and I'm adding some rosemary. I had also added a ton of paprika as well and other dry seasonings. So I'm going to do a dry rub, and then I'm also going to do a sauce for this. So let's keep watching. So I just added some onion powder, garlic powder, black pepper, salt, and paprika to really season up the chicken. But remember, it's already smoked, so it has its own flavor, but I'm just enhancing it. Then for my sauce, this is how I get it started. Now for my sauce, the base of the sauce is brown sugar. As an alternative, you can use honey. I used about 2 teaspoons of brown sugar, and after that I eyeballed everything else. So I added olive oil, a little bit of paprika, some barbecue sauce. I'm also going to add a little bit of oyster sauce right here. Sometimes I add soy sauce depending on what I'm cooking. I added some onion powder, some smoked paprika, a little bit of tomato ketchup. Sometimes I add salt, but because the chicken is already smoked, I didn't. I went in with a little bit more oil, then I added some water, mixed that up, and look at how beautiful that was. And then I just glazed my chicken with that. Of course, if you have a brush, that would be easier, but I didn't. So I just made sure I got into all the grooves of the chicken and everything. Yes. And then I've just poured that sauce all over, and then poured the remains of the sauce in the bottom of the pan, and then added a little water because I don't want the bottom gravy to burn. And into the oven that went. Alright, let's get started on our veggies. I'm first going to line my baking sheet with some parchment paper. Just makes cleanup so much easier for me and prevents any of the veggies burning and sticking to the sheet. I'm gonna start with some Brussels sprouts that I'm just going to cut in half and then line them up nicely. I'm also going to do a little bit of carrots. Some of the carrots, I chopped them in different ways just because of the shape of the carrots, but I did some long, but I mostly just cut them into little slices. I also decided in the end to go back and add another carrot. So this is where I'm adding more right here. And then I also added a few tomatoes. The bigger ones I cut them in half, and the smaller ones I kind of just left them whole. I'm gonna go in with some olive oil. As you can see, olive oil is a very important part of my dinners. It is always ever present. So I'm going to just douse my vegetables in olive oil to get that started. I'm going to go in with a little bit of smoked paprika. I find whenever I'm doing veggies in the oven, the smoked paprika is probably the most key ingredient to really get that nice flavor. Then I added a little bit of garlic, and here I'm also adding some salt, and we're good to go and oven ready. Now let's move on to the potatoes. I don't always do this, so I'd say this step is optional, but it can speed up the process a bit. I decided to try pre-boiling my potatoes at first. So I cut off the skin off of most of them, washed them, cleaned them, and put them to boil in a little bit of water with some salt. Once they were soft enough to my satisfaction, then I cut them up into small bite-sized pieces. The smaller you cut them, the better they're going to roast. Once they were all cut up, I went in with some olive oil and all of my favorite dry seasonings. I also added a few garlic cloves to the middle of the potatoes as well. Once I seasoned them to my satisfaction, gave it a good old mix, and then put a little bit of rosemary and pop that in the oven. At this point, my chicken was almost ready. I just went in to see how the sauce was looking and kind of pour everything over the chicken. Really nice. Just like look at that beautiful color so far. It's just it was doing so well, the flavor. I just made myself a nice little gin, rosemary, lime drink. This is so good. Made it with a little Bombay. It's so good. Alright guys, back to dinner. So this is how everything turned out. It was absolutely delicious. We had enough chicken for literally 3 days. It was so smoky and just flavorful. It came out 10 out of 10. Now the fun of the weekend is over and we're back to the work week. I don't really eat breakfast as I said because it's usually just too early for me, but I am going to cut up some fruits and bring them to work with me to munch on when I get there. So this day, my fruits, I started with some pawpaw or papaya. So I cut it up real nice, and mine are usually cold. I like leaving them in the fridge once they're ripe. So that's the base of my fruit bowl. Then I also added some grapes. Some of my grapes are going bad, so I really had to like cut them up. And then I added half of a tangerine, and that was my fruit bowl for the day. Then I also make my coffee at home. I have this cold brew pitcher, so I brew my own coffee and I really love it for my iced coffees. So I'm adding that with a little bit of sugar and milk. I will say though, I think it's better to mix the iced coffee with syrup. I just think the liquids just mix up better, but the sugar it still works. But that's breakfast. Alright guys, let's get into another dinner. So I am just prepping for some mashed potatoes. I have some water that I just put on and some salt that I'm adding to the water, and then I have my potatoes just basically cut in half that I'm gonna put in there and just leave that to boil. Alright, so these were some lobster tails that I bought at Christmas time. Y'all, again, this is me cooking food that I bought at Christmas way into January. But anyway, this was the most annoying part of the prep process. Please don't do it like me and just have the lobster tail in your bare hand, because if you have to cut off the spikes, this is gonna cut up your hand, okay? And it definitely cut up mine. I had little splits and cuts when I was done with this. It was such an annoying process, but let's prep these tails. So this part was definitely stressful and it took me a minute, but we got there. Then I'm going to wash my lobster, okay? And I'm gonna wash it with vinegar or wash it with lime, because for me, anything like seafood that can smell fresh, no. I'm gonna at least rinse it out with water, you know? I don't know how these lobsters were handled when they were packaged, so I definitely need to clean them to my satisfaction. All right, so I'm getting them ready for cooking. I was intending on putting them in the oven, but I don't think I ended up doing it in the oven. I actually pan-seared the lobster, but I just seasoned them up and left them there. Once my potatoes were soft though, I got into just prepping the mashed potatoes before I went and pan-seared the lobster. Because one thing about lobster is that it cooks very quickly, and once it's cooked, you want to serve it hot. So that's why we're back to the potatoes. Now my mashed potatoes are dairy free, so I'm using a plant butter. I'm adding a little bit of salt, some olive oil, and then a little bit of oat milk. And trust me, the texture is just really amazing. I crush that up. The mashed potatoes, they're so good. They're just honestly so good. You're not gonna miss the dairy. Let's get back to the lobster. So I'm gonna start off with a little bit of my country crock plant butter, as well as I'm gonna go in with a little bit of olive oil, and then we're gonna get into the nice pan sear of the lobster. Good morning, and we're back with breakfast. So, this breakfast is just another fruit bowl because whenever I need to go into the office, which is pretty much every day now, it's usually choosing between breakfast and traffic. And yeah, I don't like traffic. So, I just do something really quick and easy. So, I'm doing some fruits, chopping them up, and I also have my coffee. And that's kind of what I'm going to have to start off my day. These are the fruits that I had this week. I just did some pawpaw, kiwi, and then I added some grapes. I usually get my fruits from the Asian supermarkets. I'd go there every other week and just stock up on a ton of fruits. I think they have a lot of things for a pretty good price in Jamaica. So that's usually where I go. And that's my breakfast. And of course, the lobster dinner I had last night is lunch for today with my fruits. Good to go. Hello guys, I almost forgot to vlog tonight's dinner, but I definitely wanted to show this one because it's not every night that I make some big fancy thing. So for tonight's dinner, I just fried up some fish sticks, put it onto a wrap. I added some dried cranberries that I had in the fridge. I added some pumpkin seeds, some lettuce, some ketchup, barbecue sauce, and pretty much just anything that I have. I kind of just like put onto the wrap. And this is gonna be dinner. I don't eat cheese, so this literally takes me like 5 minutes to do. So this is my quick and easy dinner. Alright guys, so for our final dinner, we're just doing a really quick stir-fry fish and veggies with some yellow rice. So I'm just gonna chop up all my veggies to my liking and then I'm going to start up the fish, and then once the fish is about, I'd say 3/4 way cooked, I'm gonna put in my veggies and my homemade stir-fry sauce. Keep watching. For my stir-fry sauce, the base is some brown sugar oyster sauce. I add some paprika in there, sesame oil, soy sauce, mix that up nicely. If I had ginger, I would add a little bit of ginger as well. And then I go ahead and put in my veggies that cook the fastest, and then once those are in, I'm going to pour my sauce all over, let that simmer down and get the flavors up, and we're good to go. And that's it for my dinner / lunch for the next day. And this was what I eat in a week. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up, comment down below what was your favorite meal if you're gonna try anything, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video.